In the serene town of Grindavik, nestled on the picturesque coast of Iceland, the air was brisk and filled with the scent of pine and ocean. Amidst the snow-capped houses and twinkling Christmas lights, the townsfolk were buzzing with festive preparations, their spirits as high as the towering Christmas tree in the town square. But unbeknownst to them, just beyond the town's borders, the Reykjanes Peninsula harbored a slumbering giant, a volcano that had been rumbling with ominous warnings for weeks and weeks. Far away in the North Pole, a different kind of preparation was underway. Santa Claus, the jolly bringer of Christmas joy, was bustling around his workshop. This year, he felt particularly excited and ready. With his iconic red suit freshly pressed and his boots polished to a gleam, he was a picture of Christmas cheer. This year, Santa had taken to a new routine. Knowing well the irresistible allure of cookies and milk left by children all around the world, he had started a fitness regimen to balance out the indulgences. Each morning, Santa would chuckle as he lifted weights, imagining the delightful variety of cookies he'd encounter. Gingerbread in Germany, buttery shortbread in Scotland, and of course, the classic chocolate chip in the United States. His elves would often find him jogging around the snowy paths of the North Pole, his belly shaking like a bowl full of jelly, as he wheezed in the icy air. In the workshop, elves scurried about with an efficiency born of centuries of practice. Toys were being painted, teddy bears stitched, and bicycles assembled with meticulous care. Santa oversaw it all with a twinkle in his eye, occasionally stopping to check his list. Not once, but twice. Even amidst the cheerful chaos, Santa couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. This year, everything seemed to be going perfectly. The sleigh had been tuned up, the reindeer were in top shape, and the presents were wrapped and ready. As he put the finishing touches on a wooden train set, he thought of the children's faces lighting up with joy upon discovering their gifts. It was this thought that fueled Santa's spirit more than any workout or cookie ever could. Most cookies, anyway. Little did Santa know, this Christmas Eve would be unlike any other. As he prepared for his annual journey, a challenge like no other loomed on the horizon, one that would test his resolve and the magic of Christmas itself. Back in Grindavik, the air was filled with the merry sounds of laughter and carols. The townsfolk, wrapped in warm scarves and colourful mittens, bustled about with last-minute preparations. Christmas in Iceland was always a special time, but this year the anticipations seemed to sparkle even brighter against the winter snow. In the heart of town, the local baker was busy creating a masterpiece of gingerbread and cookies. His bakery was a hive of activity, with the sweet aroma of cinnamon and baked apples wafting through the air. Children pressed their noses against the frosty windows, their eyes wide with wonder at the sight of the towering gingerbread house taking shape inside. Not far from the bakery, a beloved school teacher was leading a group of children in rehearsing Christmas carols. Their voices rose in harmony, a beautiful tapestry of sound that seemed to embody the joy and peace of the season. Susie smiled as she listened to her pupils, their faces alight with the purest of joys. Yet, despite the festive cheer, a subtle unease hung in the air. The townspeople had grown accustomed to the occasional tremors from the nearby volcano, so much so that they hardly paid attention to its rumblings. The volcano had been a silent backdrop to their lives, its looming presence a familiar part of the landscape. The day before Christmas Eve, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows on the snow, one particular group gathered on the outskirts of town. They observed the volcano with growing concern. The volcano, long dormant, was showing signs of waking from its slumber. Yet their warnings seemed to dissipate like mist in the cold winter air, lost amidst the town's festive preparations. Meanwhile, Santa was far away in the North Pole, completely oblivious to the brewing storm. He chuckled to himself as he packed the last of the gifts onto his sleigh. The reindeer poured eagerly of the snow, their breath creating little clouds in the frosty air. With a final check of his list and a hearty laugh, Santa climbed aboard, ready to embark on his magical journey. Little did he know, his path that night would lead him to Grindavik, where his role would shift from merry gift-giver to unexpected hero as the earth beneath the town began to stir with a fiery awakening. On Christmas Eve, as stars twinkled in the clear Icelandic sky, the town of Grindavik was a picture of festive tranquility. Homes glowed warmly, filled with the laughter of families and the aroma of holiday feasts. But as the clock neared midnight, the ground beneath the town began to tremble. The rumbling grew, not with the familiar jingle of Santa's sleigh, but with the deep, ominous groans of the awakening volcano. In an instant, the peaceful night erupted into chaos. The volcano, long silent, now roared to life, spewing fiery lava and ash into the cold night air. The 2-mile-long fissure illuminated the sky, casting a terrifying glow over the town. People poured out of their homes with fear etched on their faces as they gazed at the eruption visible even from miles away. Among the chaos was young Thomas, a boy with a heart full of dreams and a love for Christmas. But that night, huddled with his family, he was too scared to open his eyes. He clung to his mother, his small body shaking. He imagined the fiery monster outside. He even peed a little bit in his pajamas. But not enough for others to notice, so he didn't tell his mom. His mind, usually filled with visions of Santa and reindeer, was now clouded with fear. As the molten rock made contact with the ice and meltwater, it flashed to steam, creating a spectacular but terrifying spectacle. The eruption emitted toxic gases, and the heat was intense, even by the standards of those accustomed to Iceland's volcanic activity. The town, once a haven of joy, was now a scene of desperation. Far above, Santa's sleigh cut a swift path through the night sky. It was then that he noticed the roaring glow in the distance. His heart sank as he realized that the town under threat was Grindavik, where so many children, including little Thomas, were waiting for his arrival. Santa now faced a grave decision. He knew what he had to do. With a determined look, Santa steered his reindeer towards the fiery glow. This Christmas Eve, his mission was not just to deliver gifts, but to embark on a rescue that would require all his courage and magic. As he neared the chaotic scene, Santa prepared to face one of the greatest challenges of his long life. As Santa's sleigh descended towards the fiery chaos of Grindavik, the glow of the erupting volcano lit up the night sky, painting a scene of urgent danger. Santa, known for his jolly demeanor and hearty laughs, now bore a look of resolute determination. This was no ordinary Christmas Eve. It was a time for heroism. As he approached the town, Santa could see the fear-stricken faces of the townsfolk, their eyes wide with terror. He thought of little Thomas, too frightened to even open his eyes and his pajamas still damp. And his heart grew heavy. It was time for Santa to transform from a cheerful gift-giver into a brave savior. Landing his sleigh at a safe distance, Santa quickly assessed the situation. The toxic gases and intense heat from the lava flow were the immediate threats. With a wave of his hand, he conjured a protective barrier, a shimmering shield of magic to keep the harmful fumes at bay. Santa's recent fitness regimen, though initially intended to counteract his cookie indulgence, now proved its worth. His strength was vital in helping him move swiftly through the snow-covered town. However, the numerous lunges and front squats he had enthusiastically incorporated into his workouts had left his legs sore. Each step was a test of endurance, but Santa pushed through the discomfort, driven by the urgency of his mission. He told himself that this was the price of having a nice bum, a price well worth it. He moved from house to house, guiding families to safety, offering words of comfort and assurance. When he reached Thomas at home, he found the boy still clutched in his mother's embrace, his eyes firmly shut. He gently lifted Thomas into his arms, and Santa whispered words of encouragement and promised safety and protection, until he saw Thomas's wet pajamas were soaking his coat. He quickly put Thomas down, nearly dropping him. While he didn't say anything to Thomas about it, He motioned to his mother that he was wet, and they both had an equally disgusted look on their face. Once all the townspeople were safely gathered, Santa, with a flick of his wrist, summoned a fleet of magical sleighs, each piloted by an elf trained for such emergencies. They swiftly began evacuating the residents to a safe location, far from the volcano's wrath. As the sleighs soared away, Santa paused to look back at the town. Despite the soreness in his legs and the exhaustion setting in, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This Christmas Eve, he had given the people of Vrindavik the greatest gift of all, the gift of safety and a renewed hope. As the last of the magical sleighs disappeared into the starry night, Santa prepared to leave, believing his mission in Vrindavik was complete. But he heard two small voices in the distance, and as suddenly realized struck two children. Mary and John had been accidentally left behind in the chaos. Mary was a kind and caring girl who loved the outdoors, and John a boy known for his sweet tooth, who indeed had indulged in cookies all year round, were huddled together. Santa's heart raced as he made his way back to the town. Locating the children, he found John, who was noticeably overweight, trembling with fear. Santa gently scooped them up, one in each arm. Though scooping John up took genuine effort, the journey to safety was daunting. A steep ascent up a nearby mountain, far from the volcano's reach. The climb was treacherous. Santa's legs, already sore from his recent enthusiastic embrace of lunges and front squats, burned with the effort. Each step was a battle against the mounting lactic acid in his muscles. Carrying John, whose weight was a testament to his fondness for cookies, made the climb even more challenging. Mary, lighter but equally scared, clung to Santa's coat. As he trudged uphill, Santa's breaths grew heavy, and his legs trembled under the strain. Yet he refused to give in to the fatigue, because the thought of leaving any child in danger was unbearable. He kept reminding himself that leaving children behind and having weak legs and small calves, both equally important as saving kids, simply wasn't an option. Through sheer willpower and great strength, Santa climbed higher and higher. The children, sensing Santa's determination, remained quiet, their trust in the Christmas icon unshaken, but he both noticed his high-pitched wheezing, and they even heard a sharp fart at one point. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they reached the summit. The children were safe. Santa, panting and exhausted, managed a tired but triumphant smile, even though he was genuinely angry with John for being so heavy. Regardless, he had done it. He had saved every last person in Vrindavik, ensuring that the spirit of Christmas, the spirit of hope and resilience, lived on. As he gazed at the distant eruption, Santa knew that this Christmas Eve would be remembered not for the gifts he delivered, but for the lives he saved. It was a reminder of the true meaning of the season, a time for giving, courage, and compassion. As dawn broke on Christmas morning, the people of Grindavik found themselves in a safe haven far from the peril that had threatened their town. The air was filled with a mix of relief and disbelief as they gathered together, sharing stories of the night's harrowing events and the miracle of their survival. Santa, having ensured the safety of every last person, watched from a distance. His body ached from the strenuous rescue, mostly because of John's incessant cookie eating, but his heart was full of satisfaction and pride. He had gone beyond delivering toys. He had delivered hope and protection. Santa decided to accept the offer to have a snack with Mary and John and their parents. As the children excitedly opened their gifts, Santa's attention was specifically drawn to John. The boy laid his eyes on an extremely large present, one equally as big as him. Santa was gripped with anticipation as John opened the present and realized it was a brand new treadmill. But not just any treadmill. This one was sleek and modern, equipped with 8 different speed settings and the ability to incline. Santa's eyes twinkled as he watched John's reaction. The gift was a gentle nudge towards a healthier lifestyle, and payback, but definitely still a nudge with good intentions. John's initial disappointment faded as he decided to try it out. John walked slowly at first, and then he picked up the speed. Santa was impressed. John even got into a good rhythm for about 20 seconds, until he smelled cookies. John ran much faster to the kitchen and wheezed as he ate them. Santa wasn't surprised at all. After a few minutes, John came back. He looked at the treadmill for a moment before telling Santa that he wanted him to take it back. Santa told John that he preferred to leave it there, but that it was a nice gesture to give it to another child. John scoffed and told him that he meant Santa should take the treadmill back to the North Pole because his ear still hurts from Santa wheezing in it so loudly while taking them up the hill. Santa was furious, but he bit his lip and decided to be nice and not stoop to John's level. But then John told him that he was looking pretty flabby. Santa stood up and went on an expletive-filled rant blaming John for the wheezing. John laughed and told Santa that instead of that long rant, it would have been easier to just admit that he was flabby and weak. Then he threw him an insult that had Santa's eyes glowing like hot coals. He told Santa that his calves were small. As Santa strangled John and bounced his head off the floor like a basketball, while his sister and parents watched in shock and horror, he knew that he went overboard. But he decided that it was too late to turn back now. After a few more bounces, Santa knew it was time to leave. He had other children waiting for him, other homes where joy needed to be spread, and he knew the police would soon arrive to arrest him for assault. With a final look at the grateful faces of the people of Grindavik, he returned to his sleigh. The reindeer were rested and ready. They leaped into the sky, pulling the sleigh with renewed vigor. Santa's heart was light, despite the physical exhaustion. He had witnessed the strength of the human spirit, the resilience of a community in the face of danger, and the unifying power of compassion. As the sleigh soared into the sky, Santa carried with him not just the memories of a Christmas Eve filled with heroism and bravery, but also the reminder of what truly makes the holiday season magical, bouncing John's head off the floor like a basketball. Subscribe to our channel for more boring stories and sleep help.